The rain had been falling steadily all afternoon, creating a constant rhythm against the city streets. People moved quickly, trying to escape the wet and cold, their umbrellas shielding them from the drizzle. Most were focused on their own paths, keeping their heads down, lost in thoughts or in the distraction of their phones. He too was on his way home from work, holding a slightly battered umbrella that barely kept him dry. The day had been long and tiring, and all he wanted was to get home, have a warm cup of tea, and forget the world for a while. As he walked, he noticed a commotion across the street. A woman was struggling with her umbrella, which had been turned inside out by the gusts of wind. She fought with it, trying to get it back into shape, but the wind kept tossing it around. Her coat was getting wet and her hair stuck to her forehead. People passed by without stopping, absorbed in their own concerns, but something about her struggle made him pause. There was a sense of urgency and helplessness in her movements that caught his attention. He hesitated for a moment, thinking about whether he should get involved. After all, he was tired and wanted to get home, but something inside him nudged him forward. It was one of those rare instincts that tell you helping someone is the right thing to do. Without overthinking, he crossed the street carefully, slipping slightly on the wet pavement, and approached her. "Do you want some help with that?" he asked, trying to keep his voice friendly and calm. The woman looked up, startled at first, but then relief washed over her face. "Yes, please," she said, smiling slightly despite the rain dripping from her hair. Her voice had a warmth to it, soft yet confident, and it made him feel instantly at ease. He took the umbrella from her hands and adjusted the metal ribs, gently bending them back into place. She watched him, her eyes filled with gratitude and something else he couldn't quite identify. It was as if in that short moment the chaos of the rain had slowed down, and it was just the two of them, sharing a small bubble of connection in the middle of the busy street. "These umbrellas never seem to survive the wind, do they?" he said, trying to make a light joke, hoping to ease the tension. She laughed softly, a sound that seemed to blend with the rain, making the moment feel almost magical. "No, they don't. I think they have a mind of their own," she replied, shaking her head. As he handed the umbrella back to her, their hands brushed briefly. It was a small touch, but it carried a surprising amount of electricity. He quickly withdrew his hand, feeling a little embarrassed but also strangely exhilarated. She noticed the reaction and smiled again, a knowing, gentle smile that made him feel more human, more alive. "Thank you for helping me," she said. "I would have been completely soaked without you." "I'm glad I could help," he replied. "It's not every day you get to play hero for a stranger." She laughed again, and he found himself wanting to hear more of that laugh, more of her voice. But before he could say anything else, the rain seemed to pick up, heavier now, turning the city into a blur of gray and reflections on wet pavement. She adjusted the umbrella over her head, trying to shield herself, and he realized that he should probably get going before he got drenched himself. "Well, I should get going. It was nice meeting you," he said, feeling a twinge of disappointment that the encounter was ending so quickly. "It was nice meeting you too," she replied. There was a softness in her tone that made him pause, wishing he could say something more, something that would keep the moment alive a little longer. He nodded, gave a small wave, and turned to continue his walk home. As he walked, he couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted inside him. There was a warmth in his chest, a sense of joy he hadn't expected from a simple act of helping someone. It was strange how a random moment, a small gesture, could leave such a lasting impression. Meanwhile, she continued on her way, holding the repaired umbrella with a renewed sense of relief. She found herself smiling despite the rain, replaying the encounter in her mind. There was something about him, his kindness, his calm presence, that lingered in her thoughts. She couldn't explain it, but it felt significant, as if their brief meeting had opened the door to something unexpected. Over the next few blocks, he thought about the woman repeatedly. Her smile, her laughter, and the way she looked at him left an imprint in his mind. He realized that it was rare to meet someone who could make such a simple moment feel extraordinary. The city around him seemed different now, more vibrant even under the gray sky. There was a sense of possibility, a hint that life could surprise you in the most ordinary moments. Back on her side, she found herself glancing at the people around her, unconsciously comparing them to him. Most were rushed, distant, absorbed in their own world. But he had been different, present, attentive, kind, without expecting anything in return. She wondered if she would ever see him again, but there was a quiet hope growing in her heart. The world felt a little smaller, a little more connected because of that brief encounter. As he reached the warmth of his apartment, he shook off the dampness and made himself a cup of tea. He sat by the window listening to the rain tapping against the glass and found his mind drifting back to her. He wondered what she was doing, if she was safe and dry, and whether she was thinking about him as much as he was about her. The feeling was both exciting and unsettling. He had no idea what would come next, but he knew that he wanted to find out. That night, as he lay in bed, he replayed the moments over and over. The way she had looked at him, the small laughs, the brief touch, it all felt like it belonged to a different, more meaningful reality than the ordinary routines of his life. There was a sense of anticipation, a curiosity about the possibility of meeting her again. It was rare to encounter someone who left such a mark so quickly, and he realized that he was willing to see where this unexpected connection might lead. In her apartment, she too found herself awake later than usual, thinking about him. She remembered the way he had approached without hesitation, the kindness in his actions and the warmth in his smile. It was not just about the help with the umbrella. It was about how he made her feel seen in a world that often rushes past without noticing. There was a spark, a feeling that life could offer more than routine and solitude, and she was curious to explore it. The city continued to bustle outside, indifferent to the small story that had just begun. But in two separate apartments, two lives had been touched in a way that neither could forget. A simple act of kindness on a rainy afternoon had created a connection that neither distance nor time could easily erase. Both felt the subtle excitement of possibility, the quiet hope that life sometimes places people in your path for a reason, and so, the rainy afternoon became more than just a moment of discomfort or inconvenience. It became the beginning of something unexpected, a story of chance and kindness that would grow into something much larger. The rain continued to fall, but it no longer felt dreary or oppressive. Instead, it carried a sense of magic, a reminder that even in ordinary moments, life has a way of surprising us. It was a reminder that sometimes, the simplest gestures, helping someone with an umbrella, sharing a smile, offering a kind word, can change the course of a life in ways we never anticipate. As the night deepened, both of them carried the memory of that brief encounter with a quiet reverence. The city around them slept, but in their hearts, something had awakened. A recognition that life could be beautiful in its unpredictability. That human connection was a gift, and that sometimes, meeting a stranger in the rain could be the start of a story neither of them had ever imagined. Over the next few days, he couldn't shake the memory of the woman from his mind. Every time he walked through the streets, he found himself hoping almost unconsciously that he might see her again. The rain had stopped, but the memory of that afternoon lingered vividly like a photograph in his mind. He thought about the way she had laughed, the softness in her eyes and the small genuine smile that had made the moment feel so special. It was rare to meet someone who left such an impression so quickly, and he felt a quiet curiosity, a desire to know more about her. She, too, found herself replaying the encounter over and over. Her days felt a little brighter whenever she thought about the man who had helped her. She remembered the calmness in his voice, the ease of his movements, and the way he had genuinely cared about helping without expecting anything in return. It was unusual, she realized, to feel such a connection with a stranger. Normally, life moved quickly, and people passed by without leaving any mark. But he had, in that brief moment, become someone she wanted to know better. By coincidence, their paths began to cross in small, ordinary ways. One morning, he noticed her standing in line at a small coffee shop, her umbrella leaning against the wall and her coat slightly damp from the previous drizzle. She looked up and noticed him at the same time. For a brief moment, neither spoke. They just smiled at each other, recognizing the familiarity that had grown from that rainy afternoon. Then he moved forward, careful not to seem intrusive. "Hi," he said softly, hoping the casual greeting wouldn't seem forced. "Hello," she replied, her voice carrying the warmth that he remembered. It was the same gentle tone, the same soft inflection that had stayed in his mind. They both ordered their drinks, and the conversation began naturally, without awkwardness or pressure. They spoke about the rain, the changes in the weather, and the small challenges of getting to work on time. Slowly, the conversation moved to more personal topics, favorite books, movies, hobbies, and small anecdotes from their daily lives. Each word seemed to draw them closer, creating a quiet, unspoken understanding between them. It was as if the brief encounter in the rain had built a bridge, and now they were beginning to cross it. After coffee, they walked a few blocks together. Neither planned it, yet it felt natural, as if the city itself guided them. He learned that she worked nearby in a small office that dealt with community projects. She discovered that he had a job that required long hours, often leaving him tired, but he always tried to find small joys in everyday life. They shared laughter over minor frustrations, and there was an ease in the way they moved and talked that surprised both of them. Neither had expected to meet someone who could make the day feel lighter, yet here they were experiencing that unexpected connection. Over the following week, they continued to meet in small, unplanned ways. Sometimes it was at the grocery store, reaching for the same item and smiling awkwardly. Other times it was at the bus stop, waiting for the same route and sharing stories about their day. Each meeting was brief, yet it built a subtle familiarity, a sense that their lives were intersecting more than by chance. They began to look forward to these encounters, feeling a quiet excitement whenever they recognized each other in the crowd. One evening, he found himself walking home later than usual, carrying groceries in each hand. He didn't expect to see her, yet there she was, struggling to carry a small bag of items while balancing her umbrella. He rushed over without hesitation, offering to help her carry the bag. She laughed, a sound that made him feel a sudden warmth, and together they walked a few blocks, talking about the small adventures of daily life and the little surprises that made ordinary days special. As they walked, the conversation became deeper. They shared stories about their childhoods, their families, and the small dreams they had quietly held on to. He learned that she had always loved the city's hidden corners, the quiet parks and narrow streets that most people ignored. She discovered that he had a fascination with photography, capturing moments that often went unnoticed by others. Each revelation felt significant, building a foundation of trust and understanding between them. It was no longer just a casual connection. It was the beginning of a real friendship, with hints of something more. Despite the growing bond, there was still a sense of caution. Both were aware that rushing things could spoil the natural flow of their connection. They were learning about each other slowly, savoring each interaction, each small gesture. He admired the way she listened, the way she seemed genuinely interested in his thoughts and feelings. She appreciated his thoughtfulness, his ability to notice the little details that made her day easier or brighter. There was an unspoken respect growing between them, a silent agreement that this connection was valuable and worth nurturing. One weekend they ran into each other again, this time at a small local market. The sun had returned, casting a warm glow over the stalls filled with fresh produce and handmade goods. They walked together, sampling fruits and chatting with the vendors. The atmosphere was relaxed, and they found themselves sharing stories about their favorite foods, the recipes they loved to cook, and the small traditions that mattered to them. The day was filled with laughter and ease, a continuation of the bond that had started in the rain. It was as if every encounter, no matter how brief, was adding another layer to their growing connection. Over time, their meetings became more intentional, though still casual. They would plan to grab a coffee or walk through a park, each time discovering new facets of each other's personalities. They talked about hopes and fears, about the challenges they faced in their daily lives, and about the moments that made them feel truly alive. Each conversation deepened their understanding and admiration for one another. There was a sense of comfort and safety in their interactions, a feeling that they could be themselves without fear of judgment. As days turned into weeks, the connection between them became undeniable. They found joy in simple things, sharing an umbrella on a rainy day, exchanging small gifts, or just sitting quietly together, enjoying the company without the need for constant conversation. It was a slow, natural process built on shared experiences, laughter, and moments of vulnerability. Both of them felt it, though neither rushed to label it. The anticipation, the curiosity, and the quiet happiness of being near each other became a part of their lives. At work, he often found himself distracted, thinking about their next meeting or replaying moments they had shared. She too felt the same pull, noticing small details that reminded her of him, A familiar smile from a stranger, a phrase that echoed something he had said, or the sight of someone struggling with an umbrella. Their lives were intertwined in small, almost imperceptible ways, and the sense of connection continued to grow stronger with each encounter. One evening, they happened to meet at a quiet little park, just as the sun was setting. The sky was painted with shades of orange and pink, and the air carried the fresh scent of grass and flowers. They walked along the paths, talking about their day, their thoughts, and the small moments that had made them smile. There was a quiet intimacy in their conversation, a feeling that they could share anything without hesitation. For the first time, there was a recognition of the deeper connection forming between them, a sense that what they shared was special, rare, and worth cherishing. The week ended with another casual encounter at a bookstore. They both reached for the same book, and their hands touched briefly. They laughed at the coincidence and decided to browse together. As they moved from shelf to shelf discussing stories, authors, and favorite genres, the bond between them felt almost tangible. There was a sense of comfort and excitement, a mix of familiarity and discovery that neither had experienced before. By the end of part 2, their lives had begun to intertwine in ways neither had anticipated. What started as a brief encounter in the rain had blossomed into a meaningful connection, filled with shared moments, laughter, and the quiet joy of getting to know someone deeply. Both felt a growing curiosity and affection for each other, a sense that their meeting had been more than chance. It was a connection that promised the possibility of something lasting, something beyond the ordinary routines of daily life. And though the future was still uncertain, both carried a quiet hope and anticipation, eager to see where this unexpected bond might lead them next. It had been a few weeks since their first encounter in the rain, and the small everyday meetings had slowly built a foundation of familiarity and comfort between them. They had smiled at each other in cafes, helped each other with groceries, and shared quiet conversations at parks. But they had not yet had a moment to really talk and connect without distraction. One afternoon, fate seemed to arrange it. He happened to be waiting in line at her favorite bakery, and she walked in at the same moment, searching for a spot to order. Their eyes met instantly, and both felt that flicker of recognition and curiosity that had been quietly growing in the background. "Hey," he said, his voice warm and inviting. There was a sense of excitement in his tone, tempered with the casualness of a friendly greeting. "Hi," she replied, smiling. Her eyes lit up, reflecting the same mixture of surprise and comfort he felt. The bakery was crowded, the warm smell of bread and coffee filling the air. But in that moment, it felt as though the noise of the world faded away. They ordered their drinks and found a small table in the corner, a spot that felt private despite the bustling surroundings. There was a brief moment of awkwardness as they settled in, each unsure of how to start a conversation that could capture everything they wanted to express. But soon the words began to flow naturally, as if they had been waiting for this moment all along. They talked about the weather, joking about the rain and how it had a way of bringing people together in unexpected ways. He asked about her week, and she shared stories about her work and small adventures she had taken around the city. He listened attentively, genuinely interested, asking questions that showed he remembered details from their previous encounters. It was the kind of conversation that felt effortless, the kind that didn't require pretense or performance. As they sipped their coffee, the discussion grew deeper. She spoke about the challenges she faced at work, the pressures of balancing responsibilities, and the small victories that often went unnoticed. He shared similar experiences, revealing the quiet struggles of his own life and the ways he tried to find moments of joy despite the daily grind. There was a sense of trust forming, a mutual understanding that each could be honest without fear of judgment. Each revelation drew them closer, the connection between them strengthening with every shared story. They laughed together, the sound blending with the background hum of the bakery. The laughter was easy, unforced, and carried a warmth that neither had expected to feel with someone so recently met. There were moments of silence too, comfortable and unpressured, where just being near each other was enough. It was in those moments that they realized how rare it was to find someone who could make the ordinary feel extraordinary. He noticed small details about her, the way she tilted her head when she was thinking, the way her eyes sparkled with curiosity when she asked a question. She, in turn, observed him closely, the slight crease in his brow when he concentrated, the thoughtful way he spoke. the subtle gestures that revealed his personality. Each observation added layers to their understanding of one another, making the connection feel more real and tangible. The conversation shifted to lighter topics as well, favorite books, movies, and hobbies. He learned that she loved exploring quiet corners of the city, small cafes and hidden parks where she could read or sketch in peace. She discovered that he had a passion for photography, capturing fleeting moments and the unnoticed beauty of everyday life. They exchanged stories about places they had visited, moments that had left a lasting impression, and dreams they had quietly held on to. It was a gentle unfolding, each piece of information revealing more about who they were, building a bridge of understanding between them. As the afternoon wore on, they decided to take a walk together, leaving the bakery and stepping into the soft light of the late afternoon. The streets were quieter now, the hustle of the day fading into a calm rhythm. They moved side by side, talking about the small details of their surroundings, the way sunlight reflected off the wet pavement, the smell of fresh bread from nearby shops, the distant sound of children playing in a park. Each detail became part of their shared experience, a tapestry of ordinary moments that felt anything but ordinary when experienced together. During their walk, they found themselves in a small park, a place neither had planned to visit, but that now felt like a perfect setting for their conversation. They sat on a bench watching people pass by and continued their discussion about life, hopes, and personal experiences. There was a sense of vulnerability in the air, a willingness to share thoughts and feelings that had been kept private until now. He spoke about his dreams for the future, the things he wanted to accomplish, and the quiet fears that sometimes held him back. She responded with her own reflections, opening up about the moments that had shaped her, the challenges she had faced, and the hopes she carried. They discovered common values and shared perspectives, the kind of alignment that made their connection feel deeper and more meaningful. There was an unspoken understanding between them, a recognition that they were both seeking something genuine, something beyond the surface interactions that filled much of daily life. Each story, each shared thought, strengthened the bond that had started in the rain and grown through chance encounters. Time seemed to pass unnoticed. The sun began to set, casting a warm glow over the park, and the air grew cooler. They talked about lighter things again, memories from childhood, favorite foods, and simple pleasures that brought them joy. The laughter returned, easy and natural, filling the spaces between words. There was a sense of comfort, a feeling that they could be themselves without needing to impress or perform. The connection was effortless yet profound, and both felt a quiet joy in simply being together. As evening approached, they realized it was time to part ways, yet neither wanted the moment to end. They walked together to the edge of the park, the streets bathed in the soft light of street lamps. There was a gentle hesitation, a reluctance to say goodbye, as if both were aware that something significant had begun. When they finally parted, there was a promise in the air, not spoken but felt, a silent agreement that this connection was worth exploring, worth nurturing, and worth seeing where it could lead. He walked home that evening with a sense of lightness he hadn't felt in a long time. The day, which had started as ordinary and unremarkable, had turned into something memorable and meaningful. He replayed their conversation in his mind, thinking about the laughter, the shared stories, and the moments of quiet understanding. There was a warmth in his chest, a sense of excitement and curiosity about the future. She too returned home with a similar feeling. She reflected on their conversation, the way he had listened and responded, the subtle humor and the genuine interest he had shown in her thoughts and experiences. It was rare, she realized, to find someone who could make ordinary moments feel extraordinary, who could create a sense of connection without pressure or expectation. There was a quiet hope growing in her heart, a curiosity about what might come next, and a willingness to see where this unfolding relationship could lead. That night, both of them lay awake, thinking about each other, replaying moments, and imagining possibilities. The connection that had started with a simple act of kindness in the rain had grown into something deeper, a shared understanding, mutual respect, and a budding affection that neither had anticipated. They both sensed that this was only the beginning, that the story between them was just starting to unfold, and that the best moments were yet to come, and so the world continued outside their windows, indifferent to the quiet transformations happening within two separate lives. But for them, life had shifted in subtle, profound ways. A simple encounter had grown into a meaningful connection, one that carried the promise of friendship, understanding, and perhaps, in time, something more. The beauty lay not in grand gestures or dramatic events, but in the small human moments that made each day feel richer and more alive. It was a reminder that real connections are built slowly, with patience, kindness, and genuine interest, and that sometimes a single meeting can set the stage for a story that will last a lifetime. As weeks turned into months, their connection continued to grow, but it was not without its challenges. Life, with all its unpredictability, began to test their bond in small ways. He had long work hours that sometimes left him exhausted and distracted, while she had responsibilities that required her attention and energy. At times, it seemed like their schedules barely aligned, making it difficult to spend time together. Despite these obstacles, they found ways to stay connected, adapting and adjusting to each other's lives. One evening, after a particularly long day at work, he received a message from her asking if he could meet for a short walk in the park. Initially, he hesitated, thinking about the fatigue that weighed on him. But he quickly realized that spending even a little time with her would lift his spirits. They met at their usual spot, the quiet bench under the old oak tree, and greeted each other with genuine smiles. Even in exhaustion, the simple act of seeing her made the stress of the day feel lighter. Their conversation that evening touched on the pressures and anxieties they each faced. She spoke about the challenges at her office, moments where she felt undervalued or overlooked, and the stress of balancing her responsibilities. He shared his own struggles, the exhaustion from work, the small disappointments, and the feeling that he sometimes couldn't keep up with everything. As they spoke, they listened to each other without judgment, offering empathy and understanding. It was in these moments that the depth of their connection became evident, the realization that support and patience were as important as laughter and joy. Life also introduced more unexpected challenges. One day she faced a personal situation that left her shaken and uncertain. She reached out to him, unsure if he would be able to understand or help. Without hesitation, he was there, listening patiently, offering advice only when she asked, and providing comfort in his quiet, reassuring way. He didn't try to fix everything. He simply stood by her, showing that presence and understanding could be more valuable than any solution. She felt a sense of relief and gratitude, recognizing that his support was unwavering even when life became complicated. In turn, he encountered a stressful period at work, a project that required long hours and significant effort. The pressure weighed heavily on him, and he began to doubt his abilities. She noticed the subtle signs, the tiredness in his eyes, the tension in his shoulders, and reached out. She offered encouragement, reminding him of his strengths and past successes, providing comfort without being overbearing. Her presence became a source of stability, a reminder that he was not alone in facing the challenges life presented. Their relationship also faced the small, everyday misunderstandings that test even the strongest connections. Miscommunications about schedules, differing expectations, and moments of frustration arose naturally, as they would in any growing relationship. Yet each time they approached the situation with patience, talking openly and honestly about their feelings. They learned the importance of empathy, listening not just to respond but to truly understand. Each challenge they navigated together strengthened their trust, showing that genuine connections are built not only in joy, but also through shared effort and understanding. Amid these challenges, they found moments of light and joy that reminded them why their connection mattered. They would take weekend walks in quiet streets, explore small cafes, and find hidden corners of the city where time seemed to slow. On rainy days, he would help her with an umbrella, laughing together at the familiarity of the routine, echoing the first moment they had met. On sunny afternoons, they would sit by the river, watching the world go by and sharing stories about dreams and aspirations. These moments of simplicity became treasured parts of their growing relationship. As time went on, they began to understand each other in ways that went beyond words. He knew when she needed space and when she needed comfort. She recognized when he needed encouragement and when he simply needed someone to listen. Their awareness of each other's needs, the subtle cues and gestures, became a language of its own, one that required no explanation yet communicated volumes. It was in this unspoken understanding that their bond deepened, creating a foundation of trust and reliability that would carry them through future challenges. One particularly difficult week, both faced personal setbacks at the same time. He had a major project fail at work, and she encountered a problem at her office that left her frustrated and anxious. They leaned on each other, offering support, encouragement, and a sense of perspective. They spent long evenings talking, sharing strategies for coping and reminding each other of their strengths. In these moments, it became clear that their connection was resilient, able to withstand stress and adversity. Each challenge overcame together added a layer of strength and understanding, reinforcing the idea that true partnerships are tested in the trials as much as in the joyful moments. Through these experiences, they learned to celebrate small victories together, whether it was a completed project, a successful presentation, or simply making it through a tough day. They acknowledged each other's efforts and achievements. The simple act of recognizing and valuing each other's experiences created a sense of shared accomplishment and reinforced their support for one another. Their bond was no longer just about attraction or friendship. It had evolved into a partnership grounded in care, respect, and understanding. Amid the challenges, they also discovered moments of spontaneity and fun that kept the relationship vibrant. They would explore the city at night, visit street markets, or take impromptu trips to nearby towns. These moments broke the monotony of daily routines and reminded them of the joy in shared experiences. Each adventure, no matter how small, strengthened their connection and created memories that would be cherished for years to come. As months passed, they became increasingly aware of how much they relied on each other, not in a dependent way, but in a partnership that made each feel stronger and more complete. They faced obstacles together, supported each other through setbacks, and found happiness in the small everyday moments. The challenges they overcame were not dramatic or life-altering on a grand scale, but they were meaningful, shaping the rhythm of their relationship and deepening their emotional connection. By the end of this period, both recognized that the bond they shared had grown beyond the initial spark of attraction. It had become a partnership built on trust, mutual support, and the ability to navigate life's ups and downs together. They understood that challenges were not threats but opportunities to strengthen their connection, to show care, patience, and resilience. Each obstacle they faced became a reminder of the depth of their relationship and the commitment they had for each other. The journey of these months taught them valuable lessons about love, connection, and partnership. They learned that relationships require effort, understanding, and patience, and that true bonds are strengthened not by ease alone, but by navigating challenges together. Their experiences reinforce the idea that meaningful connections are built on shared support, mutual respect, and the ability to face life's uncertainties hand in hand. Through it all, they discovered a quiet joy in being present for each other, in listening, comforting, encouraging, and celebrating. The challenges of life, though sometimes difficult, became a backdrop against which their connection shone even brighter. Each small triumph, each shared moment of understanding, brought them closer and solidified the foundation of what would continue to grow into something enduring and significant. By the end of this chapter in their story, they both knew that the bond they shared was strong enough to face future uncertainties. The trials and challenges had not weakened them. They had revealed the depth of their care and commitment. They had learned to rely on each other, to trust in their connection, and to find strength and joy in shared experiences. The relationship had become more than chance encounters or fleeting moments. It was a partnership capable of weathering life's storms and celebrating its joys together. Months had passed since the first rainy encounter that had brought them together. What started as a chance meeting had evolved into a deep and meaningful connection. They had shared countless small moments, supported each other through challenges, and discovered joy in the ordinary rhythms of life. The bond they had built was strong, filled with trust, understanding, and a quiet sense of love that neither could ignore any longer. One afternoon, the sky darkened with clouds reminiscent of that very first day they had met. There was a gentle rain falling, light and steady, creating reflections on the streets in a soft rhythm that seemed to slow the world down. He felt a mix of excitement and nervousness as he held a small bouquet of her favorite flowers, walking toward the spot where their paths had first crossed. This was the place that had set everything in motion, the moment that had sparked a connection neither of them had anticipated. She, unaware of what he had planned, walked under her umbrella, noticing the familiar street and the gentle rain. Something about the day felt different, though she couldn't quite put her finger on it. As she approached the spot where they often met, she saw him standing there, a small smile playing on his lips and the flowers in his hand. Her heart skipped a beat, a mix of surprise and warmth flooding her senses. He waved softly and she approached, feeling a rush of emotions. The connection between them was immediate, as if no time had passed at all. They greeted each other with a warmth that went beyond the usual smiles, a recognition of all they had shared and experienced together. The rain, gentle and steady, seemed to embrace the moment, echoing the day that had brought them together. "I wanted to meet you here," he said, his voice steady, but tinged with nervous anticipation. "This is where it all began, and I thought it would be the right place for what I have to say." She looked at him, curiosity and a quiet excitement in her eyes. "I'm intrigued," she replied, a smile lighting up her face. They walked slowly under his umbrella, moving to the exact spot where he had first helped her with hers. The memories of that day came flooding back, the awkward yet charming exchange, the laughter and the spark that had lingered ever since. It was a full-circle moment, one that felt both nostalgic and significant. He took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment and the importance of his words. "These months have been incredible," he began. "From that rainy day to every small moment we've shared since, I've realized how much you mean to me. Your kindness, your strength, your laughter, they've become such a big part of my life. I can't imagine my days without you." She listened intently, her heart beating faster with each word. There was a quiet anticipation, a feeling that something life-changing was about to happen. She could see the sincerity in his eyes, the depth of emotion that he rarely displayed so openly. The world seemed to shrink to just the two of them, the rain creating a gentle barrier against everything else. "I want to be with you, not just for a day or a week, but for all the days we can share together," he continued, kneeling slightly and extending the bouquet toward her. "I want to build a life with you, face challenges together, share laughter, and be there for each other no matter what comes our way. Will you take this journey with me? Will you be my partner in life?" She felt a rush of emotions, joy, surprise, love, and certainty all at once. Tears welled in her eyes, a smile spreading across her face. The rain continued to fall softly, and yet it felt warm and comforting rather than cold, as if the world itself was celebrating their moment. She reached out, taking the bouquet and looking into his eyes. "Yes," she said, her voice soft but unwavering. "I will. I want to share this life with you through everything, just as you said." A wave of relief and happiness washed over him as he stood, taking her hands in his. They embraced under the umbrella, the gentle rhythm of the rain surrounding them like a quiet celebration. The connection they had built over months of laughter, challenges, and shared experiences had reached a beautiful and meaningful milestone. They walked together through the streets, the familiar sights now infused with new significance. Every corner, every shop, every park bench held memories of their journey, from chance encounters to deep conversations, from shared challenges to moments of spontaneous joy. The city itself seemed to mirror their emotions, vibrant and alive, reflecting the happiness and anticipation in their hearts. In the weeks that followed, their lives began to merge even more closely. They spent time planning for the future, sharing dreams, and creating routines that reflected their partnership. They continued to navigate challenges together, supporting each other through work, family obligations, and the small stresses of everyday life. But now each challenge was met with a shared commitment, a sense of unity and love that strengthened their bond. They celebrated small victories with laughter and gratitude, recognizing that life's true joy often came in these moments rather than grand gestures. They explored new places, tried new experiences, and found delight in discovering the world together. Every day reinforced the decision they had made on that rainy afternoon, reminding them of the connection that had started with something as simple as helping someone with an umbrella. Over time, the story of their meeting and journey together became a cherished part of their lives. Friends and family marveled at how a chance encounter had blossomed into such a meaningful relationship. The simplicity of that first act, the kindness, the attention, the willingness to pause and help, had set into motion a series of events that led to a deep, enduring love. The rain, once a mere backdrop to a brief encounter, had become a symbol of their connection. It reminded them that life's surprises often come when least expected, that small acts of kindness can have profound consequences, and that love can grow slowly, steadily, and meaningfully. The first rainy afternoon had been a beginning, and now, with the promise of shared life ahead, it became a milestone, a reminder that sometimes the most beautiful stories start quietly with a single, thoughtful gesture. In the quiet moments of evening, they would sit together reflecting on their journey. They spoke about the laughter, the challenges, and the small, precious moments that had defined their relationship. Each story reinforced the understanding that they had found something rare and valuable, a connection built on mutual respect, support, and genuine care. They knew that life would continue to bring challenges, but they were confident that together, they could face anything. And so, the life they had envisioned together began to unfold. The rainy day that had brought them together became a cherished memory, a story they would revisit with smiles and gratitude. Their love was not born from grand gestures or dramatic events, but from shared humanity, kindness, and the quiet moments that often go unnoticed yet carry the deepest significance. As they walked hand in hand through the streets, under umbrellas that now carried new meaning, they felt a sense of completeness. Their story, which had begun with chance and small acts of thoughtfulness, had grown into a partnership filled with hope, love, and shared dreams. The future was uncertain, as it always is, but they faced it together, confident in the bond they had built and the journey they had chosen. In the end, it was a reminder that love often comes quietly, unexpectedly, and grows steadily through shared experiences, patience, and genuine care. From a rainy afternoon to a life-changing decision, their story had shown that the simplest acts can lead to the most profound changes, and that human connection, when nurtured, has the power to transform lives in ways we never imagine.